Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
If you want to achieve any kind of goal in life, you have to have a certain level of dedication. You got to put yourself all in and the perseverance to move it forward to reach that goal. How do we do that? Can we do that? Can all of us do that? He's somebody that has a lot of dedication in helping people for years. He's also an accomplished pilot at the same time, but we know him pretty much well as a certified executive coach of coaching for relevance. And he's back with us. Randy Swaim is on the program. Hi, Randy. How you doing?
Hey, great. Glad to be here as always.
Yeah, it's good to have you back here. And I know that you have major dedication, especially when it comes to teaching pilots. You've had that dedication to flying for decades, but also dedication to coaching people. How do we harness the power of that dedication to really put ourselves all in? Is it something that comes from within that you really got to want it bad to have that type of dedication?
I will share this just as one aspect of it. The short answer to your question is yes, it comes from deep within. But what I will say is when you're talking about that level of commitment, and I know on last week's show, one of the listeners kind of asked about it and everything. And but what I kind of throw out to people is just this simple aspect. In fact, it's one of the simple posts I put on my Facebook and LinkedIn and all that. But the bottom line on it is simply this, that when you're talking about particularly success as a pilot or in an unpredictable changing environment with your team or anything like that, what a lot of people don't realize is that true commitment and true perseverance is what it takes to get there. And that is from deep within. But most people, when they think about that, they think sort of superficially. It's like, I want to accomplish this. And a lot of people in today's society go out and they think that their goal of doing that is simply trying to control and manipulate people that they connect with. And that shuts people off. That turns people away. And if people truly get a sense of what you're truly committed to, which is deeper than most people realize, it's not just about, in my case, it's not just about me becoming a pilot or a coach or making a difference in other people's lives. It's how I'm going to live my life with it. And you know what? Even when it doesn't seem to be going exactly in the direction that I want, I'm going to stay committed and I'm going to persevere. And I may have to adapt and adjust a little bit. I remember I think I shared just in a non-team aspect of it in a personal life. I think I shared with KC, holy cow, back early last fall, I think it was, kind of thing, that something happened in my ex-wife's life that really kind of tore her apart. Not so much me, but just something in her life. And she just gave up on a lot, and she left. And the day that she left, I made full commitment. And this is something that a lot of people, they don't understand, but I made an absolute full commitment that I was going to be there to support her and, people that she loved and all that kind of stuff. I was going to be there to support them for years, if that's what it took. And I was there actually when she passed away. I wasn't present with her when she passed away, but I was still being committed. And for me, the commitment, most people would wonder why the heck I'm doing it. And for me, it was because realizing that level of commitment in terms of who I am, and also deep inside how much I loved and cared about her. Did we both make mistakes along the way? Yeah. But that's deeper than just me getting something. Most people would say, why are you doing that? She's not going to talk to you or whatever, kind of thing. But she was blown away when in the last 6 months of her life, she realized that I had been donating some money where a church could send her checks every month, kind of thing. And even though I was not required to do that. And so the commitment level was not just me getting something. My commitment level in that totally depended on what the difference I wanted to make in somebody else that I cared about. And I've had an opportunity during those years of really being a good source for some of her great grandkids, and they're doing awesome now, kind of thing, and helping them in tough times and things like that. But you know what? When you talk about true commitment, same thing in teams. When you look at my journey and the struggle points, not because I was incompetent, but because the timing of things was very unique. And I shared last week the couple of opportunities when I was in college where professors and a tech sergeant did things on their own that they didn't have to do. And you know what? It made it happen for me. But they didn't have to do that. There was something about their experience of what I was wanting. It was something about their experience of me in some way. I don't even exactly know what that is in their life, but the bottom line is they did something they didn't have to do. And I didn't ask them for it. I didn't try to negotiate it. I didn't try to manipulate them. They did it on their own. And you know what? It made a miraculous journey for me going forward. But the bottom line is when you talk about the challenging times, and let's face it, we all have those. And this can be whether you're acting as a pilot in a very challenging, stormy time or whatever, kind of thing. Or obviously my background was military flying, really. And so guess what? Yeah, in combat or battles, yes, it could be like that. Or in leading your team, are you leading your team such that your vision and commitment is just, well, we just want to do this. Why? Well, because we want a pat on the back. No. What is the deeper why behind that? What is the true benefit? What is the thing that's really gonna be awesome in what you did? Perhaps in impacting others, perhaps whatever, kind of thing. But what is that deeper why? When I made that commitment to my ex-wife, and then it blew, she found out that it was me doing that about 2 weeks before her last breath. And she was blown away by that. But you know what? If the whole purpose in that was to make her feel that there was this guy that loved her before she took her last breath, that was enough for me. That's it. It wasn't about me getting something out of it. And same thing with your teams. When you're leading your teams, do you have members in your team that are just trying to convince everybody to do it their way so that they can get a pat on the back? Or are you leading your teams in a way so that they don't have clarity on what that deeper why is? Because here's the thing. If you can get people to sense what that deeper why is, and they gain some clarity on that, and they sit there and they kind of go, wow, yeah, let's do that, then miraculous things can happen. But when you talk, and that's what I was just kind of mentioning on my post, when you talk about particularly challenging situations, challenging environments, unpredictable scenarios and things like that, the real thing that you want to lead your team in clarity is not just superficial junk. It's the deeper meaning in it, because once people have a sense of that, then amazing things can happen. And that's just, like I say, it's just, that's been a story in my life, because I never tried to manipulate people. I never tried to negotiate with people. I never tried to just play games like that. People volunteered on their own to come alongside and do something at key points in my journey. And so a lot of times the people in your team, what they experience, and not just arrogantly, but truthfully and all that, is the real value when you're talking about a tough journey going forward. And can you lead it? For the leaders, can you truly lead it in such a way that true commitment and true dedication and perseverance is in your team? Not because you force it, but because they generate it in their own heart that they want that. And when you do that, and magical things can happen. So it's just an interesting story with what the lady said last week. And she asked about my journey and sort of the level of commitment that had to be there and all that. But when you talk about leading your teams in a tough environment, in a challenging environment, in an unpredictable environment or whatever, there's a lot of that that's wrapped up. But this whole aspect of the courage and the commitment and the perseverance that has to be there is deeper than most people realize today. And so I challenge people that are listening, when you're leading your team, or let's face it, talking about rising stars, if you're leading your rising stars, how are you going to generate that in them, that belief in them and all that? And so it's just an interesting picture of that, but this whole concept of what's required in those kind of times, in those kind of situations, is deeper than most people realize. You can get it there. You can find it out. You can gain the clarity on it.
And that's what I'm getting. That's what I'm getting from you, Randy. When we talk about dedication, perseverance, the commitment, it has to come from within. It has to be all about your morals, your values. Otherwise, you're not going to have the level of commitment or dedication that you really need to accomplish something. That's true.
Yeah. Yep. And you know what? That is true. And as leaders, we have to understand how we truly build that in our team. How do we really create that within their own heart, from deep within themselves, on what to, do we have clarity on how the visions and the desires and all of that for our team members can come together and expand and become huge and clear. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. It's not about you just pointing fingers and telling people what to do. It's about generating that aspect where their commitment and their persistence, they want to bring it on the stage. They want to bring it to the situation. They want to bring it to the team. Not because somebody asked them to, but they just, in here, I want to,
Yeah.
And what is it going to take to generally lead that and commit to that and help that really build and explore out of their hearts. It's a deeper, heartfelt thing, but it's not just about getting an applause. It's not about just getting a pat on the back. It's not getting some reward. It's what is the difference that is made because we did that, and what's the real benefit, and what are we truly committed to? Because if all we're committed to is getting this little award, well, guess what? Next year, if you don't get an award, everything collapses. It's bigger and deeper and critical and more important than that. Like I said, for my ex, my only goal in it was that if and when she took her last breath, she got the experience that there was one person, one man on planet Earth that just loved her and was at least staying committed, and to a certain extent, like I said, we had some rough spots, as everybody does, but the fact that she, in her last couple of weeks, she was made aware of that, and her whole reaction was kind of like, from what I heard from a witness, was like, wow. If that was the only benefit to those 10 years that I spent doing that, awesome.
Yeah.
And so that aspect of commitment and the perseverance and what are you really trying to do in your team, and why, they get clarity on that, and miraculous things can happen. But it's just very interesting that if all you do is you go to superficial rote academic thoughts, you miss the boat. If you connect in with who your people are and bring all that together in line of trying to what you accomplish with your team, and you really make that just go, boy, yeah, amazing things can happen.
We have a question.
Yeah.
Pretty much based on what we're talking about right where you are
Cool.
in our conversation. Instant feedback, steve@gmail.com if you want to reach out. Mitchell in Charlotte, North Carolina says, I appreciate your talk today about commitment. How can I get my sales team to experience the same level of commitment that I have or feel they should have?
Good question. And by the way, the fact that he's from Charlotte, North Carolina, I'm from originally, basically my home is from North Carolina. So
Oh, wow.
happy Tar Heel folks. So
Yeah.
but I will say this, that one of the things that is a challenge, and it's part of the art form for this, Mitch, is that each person on your team, be it a salesperson or whatever, is different. Guess what? They're a little bit different. Not everybody is academic. Not everybody is the same. So to what extent do you have in your interaction with them, how you can gain an insight to what their real central thing is and how that connects in with what you're doing? And it's interesting when you're talking sales teams, that's also very critical for sales teams, because guess what? When you go talk to prospects, to what extent do your sales teams find out what that inner, deeper drive, passion, and commitment is in your prospects? Because a lot of times when you find that out, you go, oh, you know what? That's something we can help out with. Boom. You're connecting in with where they are. And you do that, and it makes them want to, do some cool things with you. And, but that's a key thing that a lot of people kind of forget. It's not just an academic thing. It's about connecting with your salespeople, with those people on your team, and getting a sense from some of the interaction as to what that deep inner drive, that deep central thread of of who they are really is, and how does that come together to join in with your team. And if you can find ways of bringing that, not only is the team better often, but that person's going to feel more like part of the team.
How do you find that, Randy? How do you isolate that? Is it simply just by listening?
You know what? It's a little bit of both. But to be honest, listening is a key part, because a lot of how they describe things is going to be a central thing. When I coach people, you'd be surprised at how many times when I listen to somebody and I follow up with just the right question, all of a sudden it just goes boom, and it releases the real central truth in it. I think I was sharing a story. One of my coaching clients was an attorney, and I was a defense attorney, and I was sharing with him, I was coaching him in terms of strategic planning for his law practice and all that. And when I was talking about, getting him to sort through the why it matters, he said, well, to win. Well, that's what all attorneys want to do. But in his demeanor, I realized, you know what? That doesn't look like he's serious about that. And so I asked him a question. I said, do you mind if I share something I observed there? And he goes, no, not at all. And I got him talking. And all of a sudden he started talking about a situation back when he was in the military over in, I think it was Afghanistan. I can't remember exactly where, but there was it was down from higher headquarters, but it was an order that basically in some part, caused a vehicle accident, and a couple of soldiers were injured, and his whole demeanor changed. I mean, his eyes were like this, kind of thing. His shoulders were forward, his back was stiff, and all of this as he talked about it. And I asked him about that. And what he realized is that his true central thing was not to win, but it was to be right. And he suddenly realized that's what got him into defense attorneys, because in our Constitution, it talks about even if somebody's guilty, they have the right to adequate defense attorneys. And he realized that that's what he was really all about. So one thing is listening, being aware of the body language as somebody is talking to you. If they're telling you something and they're just kind of going like this, and talking to you, they're probably not serious about it, kind of thing. But some listening and some being aware of the body language, but also the other part of it is asking the right questions. Do you ask the right questions that really get somebody there? Do you observe how they interact with the other team members as you go forward? All of those kind of things are the big thing of how you do that and how you connect in with what somebody's real central, thing is inside of them. What is it that's inside of them is going to create true commitment, create true perseverance in the journey. And how are we going to bring that part of it into our team so that our team goes up to a level 10 of perseverance and commitment and dedication and vision and not quitting, kind of thing. And those are aspects of it. So that's a longer answer to your question, Steve, but I will say this, that it's a little bit of both. It's adequate listening, it's observing, it's being aware of the body language that's communicated in some cases, but it's also asking the right questions. Do you ask the question that gets them thinking about that real central thing in them? And if you can do that as a leader, if you can do that effectively, guess what? You're going to start to get a sense for this person, for that person, for that person, for that person on your team. And guess what? Once you experience that, not only can you connect with them in that way, but as a leader, you can lead that within your team, which means you can show your team members how to interact with each other. Because you know what? If you and I are on a team and I know your deep central thing is this, guess what? Instead of just telling you something, I'm going to share something with you that really generates that in you. It brings that to the surface. And so all of that, when you talk about being a true leader, all of that is sort of part of that. And it's a little bit of both of that. To answer the question, that's a longer answer to your question. But the answer to that really is a little bit of both. It's listening, it's hearing what's truly communicated, both in the language, but also in the nonverbal communication, but also asking the right questions that get people to go, yeah, kind of thing. And it doesn't mean just firing up to do what I want. No, it means getting a sense within our team what really generates that true commitment and being able to communicate that in a way that it maximizes the potential in our team. And so when you're talking about challenging situations, that's key for leaders to understand.
When you're in a challenging situation, Randy, and you want to make sure that you have that true dedication, that true perseverance, is there faith that comes in? Faith in yourself, faith in something, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Is there that a part of it?
Yeah. You know what I will say? I will tell you this, that yes, to a certain extent there can be. And in fact, my commitment to my ex for those next 10 years, faith was a part of that. And I think I shared this with KC last fall, but I told, I kind of consider myself communicating to God. And I said, you know what? If you don't show me some other direction that you want me to go, I'm going to stay completely committed to her until you tell me otherwise. And that was in here. And there was a faith aspect of that where was I sort of watching in case maybe God may be going in a different direction, possibly. But you know what? Never did. Was I totally happy and committed throughout those 10 years? Yep. And it blew her away in the last couple of weeks of her life when she learned about who had done that. And again, I'm not trying to take credit for that. You know what? We both made mistakes. We both could have been better in just making the marriage whatever. But I know when she had a big family issue that came apart, it just caused her to kind of give up on a lot. And that's when she left and everything. But it was just something with her family. She had a stillborn granddaughter, and it just broke her heart. It just caused her to kind of collapse in her belief and everything. And I think a lot of that, I was her fifth husband. And so a lot of that, I think, was bad experiences from previous marriages and stuff that just caused her to go, oh, kind of thing. And, but you know what? there can be an act of faith in there too, depending on where your faith is. Is it some faith in me that I'm all that? No, not so much that, but it can be, you know what? Faith in my journey. What has it made me? What have I learned in it? How am I different than I was 25 years ago when this situation develops? You know what?
Yeah.
I'm not going to go back to that. You know what? I'm going to stay committed. I'm going to walk forward regardless of the outcome. You know,
Well, you said 4 words. We're out of time, but I want to just rewind on
Sure.
those words because they're so powerful. What did I learn?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And you know
important to have that
It is.
takeaway.
And you know what? How has, through your journey, how has the full commitment and perseverance been developed in you with who you have become? You know what? And guess what? In the next 10 years, how's that going to be even more? Don't
And
just
even-
brag about where you are now.
Yeah.
But where's my journey taken me?
Even with the dedication and perseverance, you know, I get this picture of a pilot, let's say in a combat situation.
Mm-hmm.
You're dedicated to the goal. You're dedicated
Mhm.
to the mission. You've gotten this far. You have to make a quick decision. You have to have faith in yourself. Faith in
Yep.
whatever, but you know, I think it kind of
Yep.
starts with yourself that, yeah, I got this. I got this. We're going to do
Yep.
this and it's going to go.
And have faith in the purpose that you're doing it.
And the purpose.
You know, the purpose, whether I live or die in this journey, is it right?
Right.
You know, and do I have faith in that truth? And so, yeah, it's very, I'll just share this just in closing. Up at the 107 Fighter Group up there, we did exercises every now and then. And then this one day, we were doing an exercise where we were simulating that there were big weapons coming across the North Pole. And so we were scrambling all the fighters to get airborne so that they weren't destroyed by the simulated weapons. And I'm sitting in the cockpit and I'm looking around at all the grounds people, the crew chiefs, the maintenance people, the SP, the MPs, I should say, and all that are running around. And it struck me that, you know what, these people know what the scenario is, but they also know that after we take off, they are in the target for these weapons. Their lives are at risk. They're still doing their job. And that picture has never left me. I realized that, you know what, that's kind of what we're talking about, that commitment. You know, to what extent am I going to be completely committed, even if I don't make it from it? And that's a huge part of how deeper this whole concept is. So yeah, it's just another picture of what we were talking about.
I thought I heard you say 107. Did I hear that right?
107th Fighter Group up at Niagara Falls, New York. That's the unit that I retired from.
Oh, how interesting. I'm on Long Island and we got the 106.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, some common family members stuff there, if you want to call it that.
Wow.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
But that is so critical. Like I say, just this aspect of true commitment and perseverance and all of that is way deeper than most people realize.
Yeah.
And you know what? You get you and your team to the point where you're totally, magical things can happen.
Coachingforrelevance.com is the website. You make magical things happen all the time, helping people move their lives forward, executives, individuals within their work situation and also their personal situation. And just go to the website, free consult if somebody wants to talk to you and kind of figure it out.
You bet. On the front page, it's got my cell phone and my email. And as we've said before, I don't do sales calls. I'll just have conversation and build relationships. Now, somebody needs something, I'll come up with something and all that. But you don't have to worry about getting cold calls from me. I'm not, because I don't do that.
Gotcha. And for that, we love you.
I'll tell you what, I'm honored to be on for all this time, and particularly with you, Steve. Definitely always glad to be on with you as well.
Same, Randy. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you, and look forward next time we get a chance to talk.
Sounds good, man. Well, listen, you have a good rest of the week.
Hey, you too. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.